Hola, angels. Um, yeah. Uh, I was in prayer about, been in prayer about a lot of things. And the main thing is, well, let me do this. It led me to chapter 3, which is beyond perception. And oh my God, each paragraph is worth its weight in gold, is all I can say. So I just in the last couple of minutes, I thought I can't do all this in one session. So I'm going to spend several sessions on this chapter beyond perception, because it's all mind training. Well, all of it's mind training, but the clarity with which Jesus had put this chapter together has a whole new meaning for me. I was in book study for 30 years. I think I went through the book, I don't know, 10 times. I mean, book study was like this: start with chapter 1, read, share, and then come back to the next section, read, share. And I got what I needed out of it. Let me put it that way. And the reality is, I didn't get anything out of it. From where my head is today, I don't know what I was reading, but it wasn't how I'm reading it now. So I really want to share this entire chapter beyond perception, and I'm going to take it real slow. And I'm going to really only do the first 2 paragraphs today and see if we can even get through that. So it's beyond perception. And this again goes back to that whole thing we're talking about. We have learned how to think through perception. Perception comes from the senses, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose. So we perceive with our senses, which has nothing to do with God. None of that has anything to do with God. So we're switching from this perceptual thinking to the truth of knowing. And the truth of knowing is just love, thinking through love. Okay. So this whole chapter really speaks to this shift that we're making from perception to a whole different way of thinking. So if you can see it as perceptual thinking is archaic. Okay. It's kind of like, if you can think about this in the timeline, we found 2 sticks, we figured out how to rub them together, and we made fire. Okay. Now, the knowing is like you turn on the heat on the wall, you switch the thermostat on. Okay, so that's the difference. We're going from an archaic way of thinking, and no one trained us how to do this, because no one's been trained in how to do this except for Jesus. And that went horribly bad on so many levels. Not Jesus, but what happened with all the knowledge that Jesus was sharing. It was interpreted with a lot of different egos, okay? And they all made different churches, and then they all started hating each other. And that's just not where we're going, okay? We're going from Jesus, perceptual thinking to the thinking through love only, okay? All right. So, beyond perception. I have said, this is Jesus talking, I have said that the abilities you possess are only shadows of your real strength, and that perception, which is inherently judgmental, was only introduced after separation. Okay, here, this is the whole thing. We learned how to think through perception, which is judgmental. Perception is all, and if you think about this, anything you perceive in the horizontal is based on more and less. Oh, they're really pretty, they're less pretty. Oh, that's really great. Oh, that's less great. Oh, that's really fabulous. Oh, that's less fabulous. That's the good as we can get through perception is judgment. Okay. So it's not serving any of us. And what Jesus is giving us through A Course in Miracles is there's a better way. And Jesus says, I have said that the abilities you possess are only shadows of your real strength. Okay. Perceptual thinking is a shadow of your real strength, seeing everything through love, which has no judgment. There's no judgment in love. Okay. And this, all right, I said this before. Oh God. Yeah. I said this at Namaste one day and I got hate mail. But I'll say it with you because I know that you're really wanting to love me no matter what. So, the holy relationship that people, I know you've all met these people. Oh, I have a holy relationship. Oh, I'm married in a holy relationship. And, most of us throughout time going, yeah, great, great, great. That's not a holy relationship at all, not even remotely. A holy relationship is where you have forgiven all perception of how you see them and offer them love only. That's a holy relationship. Has nothing to do with marriage or partnership. Nothing. Nothing. In fact, partnerships are where you get probably more lessons in forgiveness than anything else. And that's why people give themselves a partner. It's a speed up. If you want to speed up, get married. or become involved with someone. That's the speed up. Okay. You're going to have more judgments come up. Oh my God. There was a woman once. Oh God. I love this woman. And she said when she had gotten married, she was an older woman and she got married. And she said to me, she said, there are mornings I wake up and I turn over and I'm facing my husband and I smell his breath. And I think to myself, this is the breath of the man I love. No matter how bad they stink, you love them. All right. That's this side of, of thinking. If you're going off of perception, their breath smells bad. Could you please go brush your teeth or gargle or do something, anything? That's perceptual thinking. And now on the other side of knowing, of seeing all through love, it's like, yeah, I don't have to mention it to him. I love him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he does. I love him. Okay. That's a holy relationship. And you don't need to be in partnership. That it's a holy relationship whenever there's forgiveness to ourselves, because the only ones that we can forgive are ourselves for thinking there's something wrong. Okay. So after you forgive yourself for thinking there's something wrong, you have the possibility of moving into a holy relationship with whomever. All right. Okay. No one has been sure of anything. Oh, hang on. Let me read the first two sentences again. I have said the abilities you possess are only shadows of your real strength, and that perception is inherently judgmental was introduced only after the separation. No one has been sure of anything since. This is Jesus. No one has been sure of anything since the separation. Oh my God. What we're doing here is monumental. I have made it clear, this is Jesus, I have made it clear that the resurrection was the means for the return to knowledge, which was accomplished by the union of my will, love, with the Father's, God, which is what he's asking us to do, is to match our will, that will that we wake up in the morning saying, I wish I weren't so tired. I need to make more money. I need to go get grocery shopping. I really don't like that person, but I'll go out to dinner with them tonight because they asked. That's our will, okay? That keeps us crazy. Now, the will of mine that comes through love only, and then we merge that with God, which is only a loving thought in the mind. Infinite power has been returned to us, similar to that of which before we were born, before we even were taking a breath. And that's the resurrection. Okay, it has nothing to do with nails and crosses. It has to do with mind. Yeah. We can now establish a distinction that will clarify some of our subsequent statements. Now, and that's why this, this whole chapter is so amazing. Okay. Since the separation, the words create and make have become confused. Okay. We make a living. We make dinner. we make a birthday cake for someone. It's doingness. Making is doingness. Okay. And it's the next sentence. When you make something, you do so out of a specific sense of lack or need. I need to make more money. I need to make my mother happy. I need to make my children better. Whatever. That's our making. And that's coming out of a lack or need. I need to make him sober. Okay, let's really look at it. I need to make him sober. Okay, yeah. Hang on. Okay, anything made for a specific purpose has no true generalizability. So what that's saying is anything made for a specific purpose is in the arena of perception. It's full of judgment. Okay, so you really can't make anything. How's that for your doing part of your mind? When you make something to fill a perceived lack, you are implying that you believe in separation. So when you go out to make that alcoholic sober, guess what? You're seeing separation. You're believing that separation is true and correct. When you make someone wrong, yeah, you're judging them. When you make yourself right, yeah, you're judging. Making is impossible without judgment. The ego has invented, I love this, the ego has invented many ingenious thought systems for this purpose of judging, okay? I'm going to read, this is the ego. The ego, this is Jesus telling us. Jesus is telling us the ego has invented many ingenious thought systems for this purpose of judging. Oh, man. It's like all I know I shared this story, but I think it's really applicable right here. there was someone when I was living in community. Oh, I loved her dearly. I really did. I loved her dearly. And she was doing something that was causing um, great stress to many. And I had a thought. Ooh, I could tell her in a certain way that wouldn't make her wrong, but she could choose to do it differently that wouldn't create so much stress for people. And I mentioned this to Suzanne, and all Suzanne gave me was, that was my ego's ingenious way of saying something corrective to someone that I love dearly, but it would make life easier for all, which felt like a really, really noble, a noble thing to do. Make life easier for all. No, it's a judgment. See, that's ego. You got to be so clear on this. Ego is tricky. Ego will slide in when you least expect it, and it will kick your butt. I was going to say the F word, but I'm trying to clean up my language. It will kick your butt. And it's just being consciously aware, particularly in the beginning stages of forgiveness, because it is so different than what we've ever been taught. Forgiveness is, well, I forgive you for getting angry at me. That's not it. No. I forgive me for getting angry at you. You're perfect. But if I have anger in there, guess what? It's my anger, and I need to forgive myself for it. I don't need anyone to forgive me for being angry. The only one that can do that is me for me. I can't make anyone feel anything. I can just correct my own behavior, my own thought system. Okay? Okay, so the ego has invented many ingenious thought systems for this purpose of separating. None of them is creative. None of them is creative. None of them is creative. And now we're going to talk about what creation is. Oh, maybe that's not. Oh, that's later on. Creation is extending only love. That's all creation is. It has nothing to do with doing anything. It's all in mind. This is God creates. Oh, and it'll say this later, but I can share this right now. You know that Bible verse, God created you in God's image, or I'm just horribly paraphrasing that. God created you in God's image. Okay. Well, okay, there's the word create. God created you in God's image. But where do most of us perceptual thinkers that were raised in any kind of religion go? Oh, God, the gray-haired man with 2 legs and 2 arms created me in God's image. No, God is a thought system. God is an experience. God is not a persona. Form is all ego. Form is all ego. So that's, oh boy, I could take off on so many different things here. So, let's go back to this whole holy relationship thing. Oh, I've met my twin flame. I've met my twin flame. Yes, we're so in love. That's just nonsense. That's separation. Now, when you can see every single form on the planet as your twin flame, now you're moving in the right direction. Okay? And I know this is possible because Jesus showed us it was. Remember, he was climbing the mount with the cross and, I don't know how many wounds he had at the time. And, he was in pretty bad shape. He did not climb that mount going, goddamn Romans. Those goddamn Romans. That was not the way. And he wants to get us all up to speed on the way we think. He was forgiving them. As he was dying, he was forgiving. They don't know what they're doing. Or whatever he said. I'm not sure how that was phrased. I shouldn't be quoting Bible phrases. But he was forgiving. You can just see him. He was forgiving as his last breath. He was forgiving. This is mind. He didn't need to go to the barn and share a glass of wine. No, it was in mind. He was forgiving them. It didn't matter that they still saw him as, I don't know what they saw him as, evil, not okay, bad for business. And he was just, I love them. I forgive them. And he was continuing to forgive himself because he was still in form. And I'm sure, no, I don't know. I can't even say that, so I won't. All I know is once the mind has healed of all the judgment that separates us from everybody and everything, and we're the only one that's separate from everything. Once we've healed all of that, we're thinking only through the knowingness of who we are. We're thinking through the thought system of God, and God only knows us as a loving thought. God isn't a guy. God isn't a woman. God is none of those things. God is not form. God is an experience. And this is where most religions went horribly wrong. Because they split it up like, oh, now, Muhammad, God is an Arab, or, I mean, everybody has their own version of God. How many times have you heard, well, God isn't white? Oh my God, that really sends people into the infinities. Well, he can't be black because I'm not black. And if I was created in God's image, how does that work out? Well, it's an experience. It's not a form. Form is irrelevant. Ego devised form to see others as separate. Oh, they're different than me. I'm better than them. Then it moves into the whole separation way of thinking, perceptual thinking, less than, better than, good, bad, up, down. It's all separation. Okay. So these ingenious thought systems are of ego's purpose. None of them is creative. This I found interesting. Inventiveness is wasted effort, even in its most ingenious form. The highly specific nature of invention is not worthy of the abstract creativity of God's creation. All I thought of while I was reading this, how many people have hailed Edison, for inventing the light bulb, or whoever you believe invented the light bulb. Oh, such great invention. That's nothing by comparison to creating with God. Nothing. The automobile, the plane, oh, who cares? We're going back to thinking as the loving thought in the mind of God that we were made in the image of. And from there, all power is created with God. And the simple inventions we see all around the world and continue to see and talk about, and Now we have a new vaccine. Oh, this is the better vaccine for COVID. And, all that invention, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense. Because we're going for the ultimate, which is going back prior to separation and seeing ourselves as a loving thought, period. No exception. No form. This is all in mind. And mind has nothing to do with body. Okay? And so what we're trying to do is get back to the power of this creative thought of knowing the truth of who we are. We're a loving thought, period. There's no form. There's no less than, better than. And I've lived my whole life trying to get better, hence all my shelves of self-help books to make me a better me. All that's nonsense. It's all nonsense. I'm perfect. And again, the first sentence in this is Jesus. I have said that the abilities you possess, read, write, walk, are only shadows of your real strength. And this is putting all that nonsense off to the side and going, the only true power I have is to see myself as that loving thought and really, really own it for myself. Because once I own it for myself, guess what? I can see you in that way. But if I don't see me in that way, I can't give you nothing but judgment. Okay? These are only the first 2 paragraphs of this chapter. This whole chapter is like phenomenal. So we'll talk about this again soon. But for now, we're going to say goodbye to all our YouTube friends. Goodbye, all our YouTube friends. And, oops, hang on.